Thank you very much. My name is Ines Moore, and I'm a Light for Startups Growth Manager. It is rare to have so much attention from startups on legislative issues, so I am thrilled to be here today. Thank you very much for your time, dear speakers. Let's hope that we can build some bridges between policymakers and startup entrepreneurs today and see how this law specifically can help them. So perhaps let's begin with some context. Salvador, would you like to provide some context as to how Spain wants to become the next startup nation?
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for the organization and 10th edition, and it's a success. Maria, it's an incredible person, and we are really glad to collaborate with her. Well, what's going to be our effort on SMEs and startups? When we think about SMEs, we think about present. We have launched many programs in order to foster their commitment to competitiveness and to be prepared for the future. We have launched measures like Key Digital in order to introduce them into digitalization, which is very important for them to be competitive, as I said, in the future. But as for the startups, we have several measures that we want to foster and to take in the future. First of all, we have launched measures to improve the conditions of female entrepreneurs, because we think they are a key factor for the future. We have launched an ENISA program with 50 million, and it's about 12 million given already for 70 loans. But also, not for the present, but for the future, we are developing some areas like the law, the startup law. We have launched that. Nowadays, it's on the parliament. And it's a key factor that we think is going to be very important for the attraction of talent, attraction of investment. And as for investment, we have launched a program with ICO, which is called the Next Tech Fund. It's a 4 billion euros fund, public and private fund, that it's aimed to scale-ups in deep tech, as AI, as biotech, data, cybersecurity. So we are eager to deploy these measures because we think entrepreneurship is going to be very important, a key factor, as I said, in the future of our country.
Could I just follow up with that question and say, when is the startup law in Spain meant to launch?
We are hoping that this law is going to be launched this year.
So soon. Yeah. Excellent, we love that. Maria, may I address you now? Can we speak a bit more about the specifics of the startup law and what the impact on entrepreneurs is going to be?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation to share with you these moments and these insights about what we are boosting from the presidency of the government. As already Salvador said, there are many initiatives that are being pushed in order to make innovative entrepreneurship key in our economy. We know it is a key point to boost our economy, to transform our productive model. So, so right now it is at the top of the political agenda. We know that in 2020, the president of the government created this agency in the presidency of the government, the High Commission for Spain Entrepreneurial Nation, with one task. That is to make Spain, it is we say a mission-wide task for the government, is to make Spain an entrepreneurial nation by 2030. So how are we going to do that? We're going to, we have this strategy that was presented, and with 50 measures, long-term, with a long-term vision to achieve this, to make the innovative entrepreneurship the lever to boost our economy, to transform, to create this new economic model, taking into account all the driving sectors, and also leaving no one behind. So we have to focus also on lowering, on making smaller gaps, territorial, socioeconomical, gender gaps, generational gaps, and so is what we are working on. Also, as Salvador said, one of the key measures that is also a measure in this strategy is the bill for the promotion of the innovative ecosystem, and we hope, as Salvador said, that is going to be passed by the end of the year, as it is a milestone in the plan of recovery, transformation, and resilience. So we hope that there's no problem with that. Let me say that our strategy is backed with 4.2 billion euros right now, and some of the measures that we are working on with the help of the different ministries, with economy, with industry, are right now, Salvador's department is working also in the development of, as he said, different measures, as the National Entrepreneurial Office, as a single point of services for all the entrepreneurs. Also, there are more programs to attract feminine talent. For instance, the one that is launched by the Ministry of Industry, by the EOI Foundation. It is called The Break right now. There are many challenges around Spain, and entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, will come to resolve them. So it's going to be a great measure to attract talent. Also, we're working on the creation of a brand, and also with Renace, which is the network that is going to make closer all the territories in Spain, all the main agents, accelerators, incubators, startups along all the territory. So that is the whole picture that I wanted to share with you.
That's excellent. Thank you very much. So let's speak a little bit about the specific clusters of this new law, and perhaps let's bring the entrepreneur into this part of the conversation as well. Is what are the specifics of it? Let's not talk about all of them, because otherwise this is not going to be very fun. But let's talk about maybe one or two specifics and how that's intended to help entrepreneurs in the future. By all means.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if we think about startups, we think about very flexible, very eager to tackle changes companies. That on the one hand, on the other hand, we want the digital influence of digital involvement in the GDP to become almost 40% in the next years. So if you mix these ones, we have to be very aware that boosting this kind of measures is a key. So if I have to be more specific, for instance, the law we are talking about, the startup law, tries to specify the concept of a startup. Why that's important? Because it gives our companies certainty. If we have certainty, we can define many concepts to help them in the future. But also, with this law, we are trying to build an environment of rising, flourishing this type of companies. And how are we doing so? By reducing taxes, having benefits in these terms, but also by attracting talent. Visas, for nomads. That's a very important thing, in fact. And of course, measures like giving a clear stock option scheme plan. We think this law, which has been talked about in many areas and has been released before with manifestaciones de interés in Spanish, it's been very important to gather all the opinions, so we launched a very pacified text, and that's why I think many areas in the market are very pleased with this type of law.
Okay, excellent. So let's bring Eden into the conversation. She's the founder and CEO of Gattaca. I'd like to know what your problems were when you started and if this law actually tackles some of those issues.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for being here with us today. Thank you for inviting me. I tried to speak up on behalf of the startups, the Spanish startups here, but absolutely this is just a personal experience and personal opinion. In terms of regulation, as a startup, as a very early stage startup, what you really need is two things. You need people, you need a team, you need talent, of course, and that's one of the measures that is trying to tackle a problem of trying to attract that talent with tax incentives, with stock options, and also tax incentives for the corporate itself. But the second point is also financing. A startup, an early stage startup, what it needs is seed money. It needs to start. Because it's not only a team and a great idea, you need to go on for at least 1 year until you have a running prototype that you can show to customers and then try to sell. And until you get those first customers, you will not get financing in Spain. It's a reality. So any incentive that really encourages investment in that early stage is critical for this type of startups at this stage to really take off.
Okay. You have a little bit of experience going international, so I'd like to take this conversation to the bit more of international sphere. The European Commission launched the Startup Nation Standard last year, and luckily the Spanish startup law, I think, also tackles some of these points, right? Startups want to be global from day one. So how is Spain positioning itself as a leader in that space, in the international sector?
Well, yeah. What I see is that, of course, the national strategy, entrepreneurial strategy, also the law, I think that it covers most of the points that are linked, that are enumerated in the standard. We are making better conditions for stock option. We are trying to boost innovative public procurement. We want to promote diversity, inclusiveness. We want to make things easier to the establishment of the startups. For instance, this law is going to streamline the process to also not just investors, but also for the establishment and all the steps for startups. The foreign identifier number right now is not going to be required when an investor wants to come to Spain. So with the fiscal number, it would be enough, it will make it easier. Also, I don't know, there are the visa for digital nomads have been created. Also, it has been improved, the visa for entrepreneurs and investors that want to come here. Also, the scheme tax for impacts has been improved. So it can be entrepreneurs, investors and their family unit can benefit from that. So there are many issues that has been taken into account. And also, I would say that when the law has been designed, you know that there was previous to this bill in June, there was a draft that has changed a lot, and that is because all the ecosystem has participated. The government has listened to all the agents. We have also studied all the international schemes. So there are many things that have been taken into account. We have seen what it was done in the UK. So with this investment, the right investment scheme, the tax scheme for people posted in Portugal. I don't know. Also visas in Dubai, UK, France. So in the end, I think that we have done a huge effort to try to in the way that it is possible, because of course there are different boundaries, different restrictions, and right now it is before the Parliament. Of course, many amendments could take place. There can be changes, so maybe the law is not going to be as the bill that was approved by December, but maybe it's better. So
let's hope for that. We would love that.
We are working on it, all of us.
Excellent. I'd like to take it back to you, and let's use this opportunity in which we have policymakers and entrepreneurs sitting together. So we've heard some of the excellent things that the law is going to bring. What's the law missing, according to you?
That's a good question. I'm sure there was a lot of effort put into the draft that is in the Parliament right now. But if you ask me, I would point out two specific things that I'm missing, and that's based on my experience internationally. I've been lucky enough to have lived in two different entrepreneurial ecosystems, Boston and now in Madrid. And I've also visited quite frequently other entrepreneurial ecosystems like San Francisco and New York. And there is one very specific thing that I've seen often there, repeating as a key driver, and that I'm missing here, which is the link with the education sector. In Boston, for instance, you have MIT, you have Harvard, and much of the entrepreneurship comes from the university, really. Entrepreneurship is really encouraged among students as a career path. Professors team up with PhD students to launch their own business and research. It is really a choice that is made out of early years, and when students have time to really dedicate in that early stage phase of a startup. So any kind of incentive that would actually make education and the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Spain talk, that would be, I think, very beneficial for the community. And the second thing would be a more to facilitate public-private partnerships. My company is a cybersecurity company. We offer technology for governments, also for the private sector, but also for governments. And it has been quite difficult to establish those contracts with the government, with public institutions. It takes long. Why don't the government invests in infrastructure to boost the economy of a country, right? Why don't we use the citizens, the public employees, the public agencies to become early adopters of that innovation? Why don't we establish that easiness of, okay, I will be your early adopter. I will bet on you, citizen that wants to start a company. And what better reference for a startup to say that it's working for the government? Let's leverage that also as an economic boosting opportunity.
I really love that answer. Actually, that was brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Let's talk KPI, shall we? We have 5 minutes left, so I just want to talk about some of...
Yeah, I would like to answer.
Oh, please, by all means. We love that.
If I may. Yes, just two things related to university. I think the science law. It has many issues covered. Maybe it's not, of course, it is not enough to all the needs, but I think it is a first step because it talks about, innovative procurement, public innovative procurement in order to make, to promote the public administration is a key actor in buying these innovative solutions and also making startups part of the game. Actually, in CIBE, which is part of the Secretary of State of Digitalization, I think that at the beginning of July, as you are, Kataka, you are a cyber startup, I think is going to present this map of early demand with different challenges. Those challenges are innovative issues. So that is one thing that also may be an answer. But also the science law is covering this thing that you are talking about, and also the knowledge transfer between technological centers and universities and the companies. So we are working on it.
I'm really glad to hear that we're already working on that. And I've been lucky. I mean, it's definitely not out of personal experience, because I've been lucky enough to be able to close contracts with the public sector. But I feel somehow that there is still some room for improvement in the speed and the scope that can be, contracted by public sector.
I totally agree. If I may as well, there are many measures, if we can add to the ones that Maria said, like many initiatives related to launching GovTech labs in order to get ideas from the market, probably most of them from startups, to get linked to the administration. And on the other hand, we have as well many initiatives related to digital skills and how we can connect and set some bases and ecosystem in several key aspects and key technologies like AI, data, cybersecurity, because we have to develop this kind of ecosystems thinking of the future, not just the now and midterm, but also the future. And last but not least, we have some measures in this national strategy for AI related to connecting great minds in great technologies, emerging technologies, AI as well, cybersecurity, to the market. And that's going to be very important to set that rules and that examples that will connect very important advances to the real market and reduce time to market. And that's going to be, in many cases, through startups, I'm sure of that. And you will be very helpful
really glad to hear.
in that.
Yes, I think it will be a key when this National Entrepreneurial Office is up and running as the single point, the one-stop shop. It will be really a help just to let everybody know what all the initiatives are, because sometimes I think that the problem is the lack of knowledge, I guess.
That's true. And if I could ask all of you one last question, just 40 seconds each, maybe a bit less. What's one dream that you would have for Spain in the next 10 years with what's coming? How would you envision Spain in 10 years?
Well, I'm working on it. In 2030 or 32, what I see is that we have become this Spain entrepreneurial nation. So we have been able to develop all the measures required to position innovative entrepreneurship as a lever of all the economy and the productive model.
Well, I would say that we are in a game-changing situation. We have to take advantage on. We have many initiatives going on, and we know where are we going towards. That's why this kind of vision we are trying to scale up also in a European level. That's why we are members in this European Startup Nation Alliance that you said before, and we are a very important part of that, for instance. Yep. And we want, as I said before, that we are hoping digital GDP-related areas will become until probably 40% in a very few years. And we want to become a country where talent is created, but also attracted, where investment is aligned with this type of initiatives, and so it's attracting other types of alignment and creating an ecosystem through which we can endure and thrive in the future.
Thank you. Irene.
One last wish. I've been lately involved at a European level, and I've seen other countries. What I would wish for Spain in 10 years' time, for me, definitely would be that Spain would lead the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Europe, to be number one in Europe. What does number one mean? Well, you can measure different ways: number of jobs created by startups, revenues created by startups, also funding raised by startups. There are multiple KPIs, but I really want for Spain to lead. I've seen personally Spain leading European efforts, and I think we can do this one too.
I think so too. I cannot thank you enough, dear speakers, for your time and contribution today. Thank you very much for the public for being here today as well. I hope everyone has a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.